We're here at the TC3 Innovation Summit in Mountain View to speak with Andrei Petrus a little bit more about Avira. So as we get started, can you just give us a high-level overview of the company and tell us a little bit about your focus areas and where you got started?
Sure thing. So it's very interesting. We started 30 years ago as an antivirus company focused on Windows operating system. And then by the time the needs of users and consumers taking different shapes, adopting mobile technology, adopting the internet as the way of communicating and changing information, we practically covered this entire spectrum with solutions. 2 years ago, we were basically serving 100 million users on mobile, on desktop and mobile technologies. And we saw that IoT is really surging in adoption. We all know the numbers, right? 25 billion by 2020. And we asked ourselves a question: how can we make sure that users' privacy is being protected and device security is being enforced? All the manufacturers of these connected technologies and connected devices, they take security as a secondary focus at best. They're interested in having the fastest time to market and to make their profits best, right? Most of them don't even have security pedigree. They just think, how can we retrofit, how can we put a chip and allow the user to control it via mobile application? So this is how we started to focus on this IoT area. And what's very interesting, we built like a startup at the edge of the company to tackle these innovative new needs being addressed to the consumer base.
Yeah, just the velocity that the IoT is growing. I think by the end of today, there will be 20 million more devices connected to the internet. So it's just not to be reductive, but the more network endpoints, the more potential security vulnerabilities.
Definitely. And the problem with those devices is that if with a PC, when you type in information, when you put your credit card details and hit the send button, you're conscious of what data you generate. When you plug a light bulb in your home and you connect it to your Wi-Fi, you don't know. Maybe it has an embedded webcam. Maybe its manufacturer from the very beginning had this business model focused on collecting personal data and using it afterwards to alter your purchase behavior or to send you advertisements that are best fit for your needs. But you're not aware of that. And this is what we already observe in the market, let alone these conscious security flows that are being used by these advertisers. There's also manufacturers that don't treat security with a priority, and we end up with baby monitors that are being hacked. And strangers out there in the world are being able to talk to our babies in the cribs.
And so to handle that level of scale, you all are taking a cloud-based approach to perform your analytics and threat detection, right?
Exactly. So the first alternative that we considered was building a secure router and putting out there in the shelves for users to buy and to enjoy secure networks at home. But after doing some consumer research, talking to people, analyzing their behavior in the consumer electronic shops, we understood that users don't think about security proactively. So this is why we built this technology that can retrofit existing routers in people's home. So working together with ISPs and router manufacturers, we can ship this very thin software component on routers. And with our cloud-based engine, where we have supervised and unsupervised AI algorithms, we baseline the behavior of each device. And when an anomaly occurs, we're able to create a tailored rule, send it back to the router, and only contain the compromised part of the communication, while leaving the rest of the functionality of the device alive, so the user doesn't feel anything. It's security that just works.
So one of the other trends that we're seeing in IoT right now is this dependence on centralized cloud to handle the amount of data that's shipping. But as we look at more of these latency-sensitive type IoT applications, you also see the inverse, where you see fog computing and this decentralization. So what are the security implications of that, do you think?
So first, when we talk about centralization and decentralization of data, it's important to understand that all the device manufacturers and cloud service providers, on the other hand, are interested in getting as much data as possible. And we see our infrastructures, our core networks being flooded with voluminous amount of unstructured data. I believe dearly in the fact that centralization is what will happen. Data will be aggregated and processing will move more and more to the cloud. And there's where most of our private and sensitive traces will be handled. How? We don't know. We can trust the brand. Definitely, there are brands that are very attentive to how they treat personal information. But on the other hand, we see things like phenomena that are like Mirai or IoT Reaper that are enslaving millions, if not billions, of devices in what might even turn the end of the communications of today's, right? I mean, that's a utopian view, but it could happen.
Andrei, from your perspective, how aware of the vulnerabilities associated with the IoT do you think the average consumer is?
The average consumer usually trusts brands. The general consumer goes for the best package of features they can get for a buck. And I've been talking, I'm sorry for diverting a bit the question, I've been talking to manufacturers of white goods, and they saw their market share shrinking down. And they went, the C-levels went to the marketing team and asked, okay, why is that happening? Why are we losing adoption? And the answer was, our competition added remote control features to their appliances. Okay, we need to do the same, but they don't have the security pedigree. They don't have even programming teams inside their divisions. So they go for externalizing stuff. They externalize this kind of development. They don't do maintenance. They don't think about doing penetration tests. And people will just end up with this kind of devices that are vulnerable. And at the beginning, you don't think about security when you buy a washing machine. You don't think about security when you buy a connected light configuration, for instance. You just want to control it with your phone. You just want to get an immediate value. Security is not something consumers think about. And they're not to blame. They are not to blame.
So how can our viewers find out more about your company's approach to security for the IoT?
Yeah, so we have safethings.avira.com as a website. There we expose very well our vision on how IoT security should happen, and also what are the steps that we will take in that space. It's a very strong and very solid and bold oath of ours that we need to protect the people in the connected world.
Andrei, I really appreciate you taking a moment to catch us up with the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.